Turkey is one of the best smoked meats, but only if you treat it right. I've got some tips and tricks to help you nail your Thanksgiving bird, or maybe you just want to make some sandwiches for some weekday lunches. I'm going to cook this one on a 22-inch kettle grill. This one happens to be the Spider Grill's Huntsman, but the same tips and tricks are going to work great for your standard Weber kettle. When it comes to turkeys, bigger is not always better. I picked one up that was 20 pounds, but I found that 14 to 16 pounds is your best bet because those smaller birds are going to be a little bit more tender and you're going to have an easier time fitting them inside of your grill. And yes, the quality of the bird absolutely matters. If I can get a fresh bird, I'll always do that over a frozen. And the best turkey I ever had was one that I got from the local 4-H kid. I took my fully thawed turkey and started to part it out. And if you want a step-by-step guide for this, I have another video about breaking down a chicken, and the process is the same. But the basics are you move the thighs and the drumsticks as well as the breasts. And the reason for that is it allows you to make sure that every piece is cooked to the exact temperature that you need, rather than waiting until the entire bird is cooked. And really, you're just waiting for the last one, so you get some parts that are fully cooked and some parts that are overcooked, which is never a good thing. Overcooking your turkey is a surefire way to ruin it and make it super dry. And once the turkey parts are removed, I take the skin off of it. And that's because the method that I'm using here isn't going to allow you to get nice, crispy skin, because we're going to end up braising it here in just a little bit. I also dry brine this turkey by adding a half a teaspoon of kosher salt per pound of turkey and just covering the outside of it. If you have a fresh turkey or one that you know hasn't been brined, in order to check, you're going to need to look on the package itself. It'll usually say that it was soaked in a solution. If it doesn't say that, you can add a little bit more salt, go up to closer to 1 teaspoon of kosher salt per pound of turkey. But for most turkeys, half a teaspoon is the sweet spot. Then I'll leave it in the fridge uncovered for a few hours. And if you're wondering what I did with the rest of the turkey, don't worry, I ended up simmering it and making an amazing broth. Right now we're making some turkey pot pie, but this also goes really well if you're gonna make gravy when it comes time to eat it. Out at the grill, I put all of the charcoal on one side, so that way I have a hot side and a cooler side where the meat's gonna go. I'm also using lump charcoal because it's gonna burn cleaner than briquettes will. And when it comes to cooking poultry, especially with low and slow, that matters a lot. For the same reason, I'm only using chips instead of chunks for the smoking wood, and I'm not using that much. Only a handful all across the coals would be about the right amount to give it just a kiss of smoke. You want to know that it was smoked without it tasting like an ashtray or turning completely black. Now, lump charcoal can be a little bit difficult to light, so I used a handful of briquettes with a starter cube and used that to light the rest of it. I'm setting up the kettle for 275 degrees to roast throughout the entire cook. And after putting the meat on, I could barely make this 20-pound bird fit, and that's another one of the reasons why you really want to go with a medium-sized bird. And after that, I pretty well just left it alone and let it absorb that smoke for a couple of hours. And the next step, you need to remember that turkey breasts are super lean, especially with that skin removed, and so they're prone to drying out. So the next step is to wrap them up in aluminum foil so that way they braise in their own juices and they retain all that moisture so that way it ends up on your plate. Now, if you're not counting calories and you really want to get the best flavor overall, I recommend you take a half a stick of butter and put it in each breast. You also notice at the big barbecue joints, whenever they slice up those turkey breasts, they'll either dip it in some juice or some butter directly so that way it stays moist on your plate. As soon as you slice it up, it's going to dry out pretty fast. And if you think that's too much butter, Aaron Franklin uses a lot more butter than that in his recipe that he has in his cookbook. Now for the dark meat, like the drumsticks and thighs, I'm only going to wrap them if they start getting too dark. But I've been burning pretty clean with this lump charcoal and only a little bit of smoking wood, and so it's still a nice golden brown. If you're getting a dark mahogany at this point, you might want to wrap it so that way it doesn't get any more smoke and get over smoked. I'm going to take the turkey breasts off of the cooker when they reach 160 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a little bit lower than the 165 that the USDA recommends for poultry, but the reason why is it's going to continue to heat up after you take it off of the grill, and it'll get to that safe temperature before you end up slicing into it. But when it comes to things with the bone, like the thighs and the drumsticks, I let them go up to 175 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Some people may say that that's overcooking it, but I found that the higher temperature helps break down the collagen, the connective tissue, and you get something that's a lot more juicy than if you cooked it at a lower temperature. And I'm talking a lot about temperature here, and it's absolutely key. You need to nail these. You need to make sure that you have a good food thermometer, and even if you're going somewhere and you might be cooking the turkey, I like to take mine with me. In one example, my cousin took a stuffed turkey and he put it in the roaster that he set to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. He misread the directions. He thought that you're supposed to cook it at 165, but you're supposed to take it out at 165 degrees Fahrenheit. He left it there for about 4 hours before he realized his mistake. He cranked up the heat and then said, yeah, that looks okay. Now, I didn't eat the turkey, but a lot of people who did ended up getting sick, and you don't want to ruin your holidays. Get a good thermometer and make sure you nail those temperatures. After verifying the temperature and letting that turkey rest for 30 minutes, it's now time to slice it up so that way you can serve it. It's also a really good time to take those turkey breasts and dip it in some of the drippings that were left in the aluminum foil, dip it in butter or whatever you want to use to make sure that it stays moist. If you follow these steps, you're going to have great results with your turkey. If you want to learn how to break down a turkey like I did, check out this video where I show you how to save a lot of money by buying whole chickens and breaking them down yourself. Chicken is just a small turkey, so if you can do it on a chicken, you can also do it on a turkey.